Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for tuning into PETV World. You're definitely watching Ramzan Pakistan, and the name happens to be Shahzad Hasan Khan. And with me, I'm blessed to actually have a very learned colleague, and who happens to be Miss Haja Sati as well. And right at the very beginning, since it's the 12th Rosa today, it's the 12th fast today, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially entered the second Ashra of the holy month of Ramadan, that too yesterday as well. So I think let's start with a prayer. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli zabbin wa atubu ilayhi. And just like before, I have mentioned that the first Ashra, ladies and gentlemen, is mercy. The second one is forgiveness, and the third one is seeking forgiveness from the hellfire as well. Hello Hajra, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam, and thank you so much, for giving such a nice introduction. I'm good. How are you?
I think I feel great too as well, but there are certainly those days when just because of the feather, you do feel a little drowsy, and and this is something which I actually wanted to ask you as well, whether this happens to you or not. Because what happens is that right in the middle of the day, when you feel like, okay, after Zuhur, let's just take a nap for a while, 30 minutes or 1 hour as well. What happens is that these days, whenever I go for a nap, it's so difficult for me to get back up, and I just feel a little drowsy. Probably it's because of the feather, or I think it's just because that my body needs a little bit of rest. What about you? Have you ever come across such a situation?
I think it's because, we are fasting in generally. So, and we are not eating anything. So, in general, your body is very enervated and you tend to sleep more. And, I think that's why the case.
I think it does happen as well. And, because we're talking about, how we really do not have control over whether we want to sleep more as well, or, even if we are in a situation we would really want to get back up, the bed does not allow you to kind of get up as well. So,
and also there are a lot of environmental changes, this time around, because the temperatures are 10 degrees higher than the previous years. And there's a very important thing, I think, which has been somehow backslide, which is there was a new report that came in on the Intergovernmental Panel on the Climate Change, and somehow because the global news media didn't give the coverage that it demanded, I think we need to have a conversation on that too, that how much, we are degrading the environment and how much it is necessity for us to reverse these sort of changes and implement such sort of changes, because we are one of the most climate vulnerable countries.
Exactly, we are. And even though, since you've touched upon that, we are actually not even contributing. So I think our contribution towards this climate change is just 0.01% as well.
That makes this conversation so much, asymmetrical and skewed, because, the rich countries are contributing towards this bias, and we, the poor countries, we are feeling the heat of that, right? Literal heat, I would say.
Literal heat, yes, that's what it is. And just yesterday, while I was driving back to home as well, I could see the temperature was at 41 degrees centigrade as well, and it was too hot. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that, whatever diet you're consuming, make sure that you keep yourself hydrated as well. And yes, climate change is real. We really need to move on towards renewable energy resources as well. So please make sure if you can bring about that change, let's do that together, because a lot of people have moved on to solar. A lot of people are actually proposing a lot of wonderful things as well in terms of climate change. There's a lot of depletion of the land going on as well. So it's serious, and we really need to take it seriously as well.
Considering the fact that we are the agrarian society, right, and a lot of our labor works in the fields like that, and especially when such kind of changes are occurring in the environment where there's so much increase in the temperatures, I mean that is impacting the
Thank you very much for saying that, because in addition to that, I would love to add over here that, for example, earlier if we were cultivating rice probably somewhere in the summers as well, and it was from let's see, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, all right? So, imagine just because of climate change, it has had so much of an impact that, that we really need to kind of change the time now when we're actually going to cultivate or probably bow the seeds as well.
And the impact is very gendered, because a lot of women are working in the fields, right? And that is very invisible sort of labor that is going on there, right?
It goes unaccounted for as well, and we really need to put our focus to that. But we'll certainly talk about that. But first, what we really need to talk about is that how, on occasions you feel like doing something and then you're like, okay, you know what, probably I shouldn't do it because it's not good for me. For example, I'm going to share an example, and I've shared it multiple times on Ramzan Pakistan's transmission, that, whatever is left in the iftar. So after I come back from playing cricket, I would always make sure to actually have some of it, either fruit chaat, dahi bhalle, or probably sandwiches or drumsticks. I don't know whether I should talk about it or not. But imagine that now today even I was thinking that late night eating is not good for your health, and you
Right.
shouldn't actually sleep right after eating as well.
Right.
But that self control never comes, Hajar, and this
That's
is
one
something
of
I
the
want to work
hardest
on.
thing, yeah.
I'm such a big foodie, even though I make sure to work out, play, do whatever, as many calories I can burn, I will always make sure to do that. But that habit for me to stop eating is something which I just cannot do. I don't know
Right.
what to do. I start to lose my self control as well. What about you?
Right. I don't think so. I'm that much of a foodie, but certainly in Ramadan, especially on the iftar table, I drink so much of the water and that bloats my stomach a lot, and I'm unable to eat more. So after 2-3 hours, at around 9:30 to 10, then I have a second shift.
All
I
right.
don't know.
So the second shift is there,
Right.
but it's not a later shift as well. And since we are playing at that time, so ladies and gentlemen, the self-control we're talking about is really
Right.
important. Food, obviously it was on a very lighter note as well, but you do
Right.
come across situations where you like, okay, later on. And I think I'm not going to kind of discriminate in between genders over here as well, but on occasions I've heard my mother or my sisters saying as well, oh, you know what, that, I should have said this then, or probably, I should have done this then. And what happens is that, just because you really didn't have that self-control then, you might have actually made a very stupid mistake. So how to kind of, when we talk about fasting,
Right.
how do we really need to encourage ourselves within our own selves to kind of have that self-control, that we really do not make any stupid mistakes or decisions as well. Hence it's said that, whenever you're happy, please make sure that you do not make any promises.
Right.
And whenever you're sad or angry, please make sure that you do not open up your mouth as well. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that today's conversation is going to be enlightening for all of you, for each and every one of you who actually has a little bit of trouble in that kind of self-control as well. I've seen people who flip just like this in 1 second. They're trigger words for people. You say that to them, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, yeah, chhedna nahi chahiye tha.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're very lucky that we're actually going to talk about fasting and self-control.
Right.
And obviously, one of our favorite religious scholar happens to be over here in the studios with us, and he happens to be Mr. Imran Sandhu. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Sir, absolutely perfect. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
I think it's great now that because you are a permanent member of the team now as well, and you asking us how are you, I think is a wonderful thing as well.
Right.
But sir, first things first, you yourself, how do you make sure that you're going to endorse self-control within your own personality and your kids and your family members, and why do you think self-control is important in the first place, especially in the month of Holy Ramazan?
So there's a term, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, there's a term known as tazkiyah, to purify oneself.
Right.
And if you observe the human psychology,
Ji.
you'll see your stomach, or what should I say, the center of human body is his stomach.
Yeah.
And
It just can't stay full.
yeah, and the center of human mind, human psychology is the brain.
Yeah.
And the center of human personality is his tongue.
All right.
And the spiritual center of a human mind is
Your heart.
Your heart.
Agreed.
So, if one fasts, and refrains from what goes into the stomach, will definitely make him a person that can be patient.
Right.
And the patience is the center of self-control, sabr. If you are able to control yourself from the most desired thing to sustain human life, that is eating, then it's a practice session. You were talking about cricket, so you do net practice in cricket when you want to become a good player.
Yeah.
So Ramadan, the month of Ramadan is the month of net practice.
For self-control,
For
patience,
self-control.
for almost everything then.
All the human virtues that is going to make human a human being.
All right.
So the success model of the humanity is revealed in Suratul Asr. Iman, amal salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqq, to to say the truth,
Right.
or to realize the reality,
Right.
and then being patient. So if you are practicing sabr in Ramadan as a net practice, there's a chance that you will also practice it all around the year. But what happens is, the first thing that comes out when you stop eating, that you start becoming a bit,
Hungry?
uh, frustrated.
Yeah.
And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if you fast and you do not control your
Tongue.
tongue, then Allah does not need you to be to stay hungry during the day. What is the purpose? So the purpose of oneself is to, the center of sins. There are two centers of sins. One is stomach and one is the tongue. Whatever you are going to say to other would either be evil or be bad, or is going to be good. So whatever you are going to say is going to define what your personality is.
All right,
Right.
so let's dig it in, and it's because of the fact, sir, that we usually as humans we do come across situations where we really need to say what we do not want to say as well, and at that point of time, in that particular situation, you really need to say that, because otherwise either they're going to take advantage of you, or if God forbid you do not have that power or authority to say no, people will misuse or people will take advantage of you as well. And those are the situations where I have actually faced some real difficulties, and it's because of the fact that, imagine that at heart you happen to be a good person. I'm not referring to myself only, but a lot of other people, and it is for the people to decide whether I'm a good person or not. But that's what I think, and what I would love to think about my own self as well. So imagine that I've been in situations where I really need to tell them that, hey, you know what, you certainly need to work on yourself, or probably your weight is a little higher, or probably you really need some kind of mentoring, or probably you need to focus on your work. But over here within our society and culture, Haja, we do not have this habit. If somebody comes to you as seeking for an advice, what we do is, oh, bahut acha, koi masla hi nahi hai, you're doing a wonderful job, rather than identifying what their problem is. And I think it's a cultural problem, and it's because of the fact that if somebody is asking you for advice, that means they look up to you, and they would, because for example, somebody will always ask me, sir, you host shows, can you please give us some piece of advices, this is something I did. And if I won't like it, I will tell him that, hey, you know what, this is where the problem is. And I initially I really never wanted to do that, to tell people where they were lacking. But then if we are not going to tell them, how do you think that they will improve? And we as a society, we do not rectify anybody's problems, even if they're asking for one.
So
I know we are diverting a little bit from self-control, but still.
no, we are not diverting. Look, human mind processes information,
Yep.
and this information actually is received through 5 senses.
Right.
Yep.
Right, we are not actually diverting,
Yes,
and whatever information you are taking, that is an input to a human being.
Yep.
And whatever comes out is actually the output that goes out. So the input versus output, what you perceive and what you tell people, how do you react to
What
that.
you share, yeah.
So these 5 senses, when you start controlling your 5 senses, you are controlling how you perceive the inputs, how you are taking the information. For example, what are you seeing through your eyes?
Yep. What are you
Then-
going to say from your tongue?
What are you going to hear?
What are you going to touch?
What are you hearing?
Yep.
You see people reacting in 2 different ways after hearing the same thing.
True.
So similarly, and whatever you hear and whatever you see or whatever you feel, sometimes you are feeling hot during Ramadan days, and the reaction of feeling hot is going to be, there could be two reactions, a good one or a bad one. छोड़ दो, आज बहुत गर्मी है.
पीछे हो जाओ, पीछे हो जाओ सारे.
You know, so now you're feeling hunger. Now you could react in two ways after feeling your hunger. So Ramadan is the month of practicing your outputs, the right outputs against the general inputs that you feel. You know, as Prophet ﷺ was said once on anger control, because that the real Pahalwan is not that person who actually expresses his anger, rather who controls it. He is the real fighter.
Yeah.
So you know, as you said, that people will come and try to take advantage of you. Now it is for you to react to that in a way, and you know that they are taking advantage of you. So it is for you and your intention how you want to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Right?
Or whether you want it or not.
Yeah. And actually, as a human being, if people are taking advantage of you, there's nothing bad in that. But
yeah.
It will depend upon their niyyah and your intention.
Obviously.
And the control of intentions actually helps in control of actions.
Exactly, and it does add to that as well. And sir, where you actually said that, you know, taking advantage, if somebody is taking advantage, and I think that it's a noble cause, that's not a problem. But somebody taking advantage which you think will actually hurt or damage you professionally is something where you really need to be smart about it. And we really need to give those smart solutions to people. So imagine what I came up with. So if I was in a situation earlier on, I never had an idea, yaar, kya kahun ab na, you know, he's a good friend, or, you know, whoever's right in front of me, I know them personally, if they are a family member. So I would always be like, chalo, you know, let's do it. And, you know, it would take me 8 hours, you know, so my own work was neglected. Rather, I was focused on somebody else's work as well. And then eventually, this idea popped up in my mind that, hey, you know, let's tell them, okay, let me think over it and I will get back to you. I think that was the best idea, and it was the nicest idea as well. And ever since then, you know, I will always get time to think whether I need to do that or not, because in that particular situation, people will always pressurize you. Chalo ji, chalo, let's do this, let's do that. And then you really need to kind of take a backseat and be like, hey, you know what, if you do not want, for all our viewers who are out there, if you do not want to be in that situation, just tell them, hey, you know what, you know, let me just go back home, think about it for a while, or sleep over it, and then I will get back to you. And I think that's the best solution I've ever gotten, and it's because of the fact that you will certainly get that time as well, and then you will be able to decide, and that whether you want to do it or not will always be your choice then, even if you will give it your space, your time, and I think that will be beautiful. But on the contrary, you know, there have been situations where people have ended up in arguments just because of, oh yaar, you know, तुसी सर साडे लिए नहीं कर रहे हो, you know, things like that. And we have that in our culture. That's where you want that self-control.
Yeah, you know, again.
I'm sorry, I know you had a question as well. Yeah.
So, so, you know, self-control is all about, you know, as I said, reacting to someone or certain situations where you have choice to react in the right way and in the wrong way.
Right.
So, what is the purpose of humanity? The purpose of humanity is to coexist with human beings, and and making the society better and better and better. Now, if for example, I will say there is a hadith of Niyyah, the first hadith of Bukhari, innamal a'malu binniyat, man likulli imri'in ma nawa, like actions are but by intentions. Now we can very well see that, you know, all the actions are backed by some kind of intentions.
True.
And if if somebody is trying to take advantage of you, you can very easily, you know, change your intention from to and purify your intention, and use the same attitude to change how you react to that action of somebody else who's trying to take advantage of you. And in this hadith you say, Allah's messenger say, man kanat hijratuhu ilallahi wa rasulihi. So whosoever migrates towards Allah and His messenger, his migration is towards Allah and His messenger. And whosoever has an intention to go to marry a woman and to dunya, his intention is to that place. So what happens is, intention is a very, very powerful tool to react to this situation. Even if somebody is
Here are some pictures that
Yeah, it's perfectly all right. I think the cell phone started to say what you were saying as well. There is something I wanted to
Siri
say.
came into existing, and it was all without intention.
Yeah.
So now this thing can happen.
Yeah.
So
Without intention.
Yeah. and intention actually, look at this. If a doctor is doing an operation, what is the process he's doing?
Yeah.
He's actually cutting someone in the operation.
Yeah.
And if a person who is a criminal and he's trying to use the same knife
Yeah.
to kill you, the action is similar.
Yeah.
One person is killing you with the knife, and the other person is
Saving
using
you
the
with
same knife, saving your life. So the intention behind what doctor is doing or what this criminal doing is different, but the action is the same.
I think that the grip of the blade will be different as well. The doctor might come with this grip, and the killer might come with this grip as well.
But he's using the same tool.
True.
With different.
That's
My thing is, sometimes you are doing the same action with different intention, and to control the intentions, your intention is the most difficult thing that you can practice.
That's true.
Prophet ﷺ was invited by one of his companions on his housewarming party, and he said, look, he told Prophet ﷺ, look, I have made this window over here so that fresh air could come. Prophet advised him a very powerful thing that he could practice. He said, look, had you also intended for the azan to come, the voice of azan to come, your reward would have multiplied. So
just by thinking, just by the intent.
And this intention is the real powerful source of self-control.
Yeah.
When you do something, just stop, and if even you are reacting to one of your colleagues, or you are reacting to your to somebody out there, your intention is going to define who you are.
True, that's true.
And intention is the place of human psychology where you can practice self-control.
But the center of intent or the niyyah is always your heart, right? You're like, okay, yeah, whether I should do this or not, whether I should do this with this niyyah or not, whether I should think this way or not. So I think where you were actually talking about all those centers and senses as well, I think intention is from your heart.
Intention is going to define who you are.
True.
As Quran says that a human cannot have two hearts.
Right.
So this means a man cannot have a good heart and a bad heart at the same time.
So my interpretation of it is that, so either you can have a heart full of good deeds, or either, God forbid, on the other side.
You can't have great
heart,
as-
heart full of good intentions.
Yeah.
And when you start practicing good intentions, good deeds is the automatic reaction that is going to come out.
True.
And sooner than later.
Right. Okay, so sir, Imam Ghazali in his book says, Munkidul Minal Dalal, deliverance from the error. That is sort of his spiritual autobiography, and he talks about the self-control. What is your stance on that?
Definitely, whatever actions you see in the world that are actions that are being observed in the world, for example, you can take Kashmir issue.
Right.
There was a legislation behind the Kashmir issue. But was the intention, what was the intention behind going into Kashmir and legislating Kashmir? It was to enslave people.
That's true.
Munkir min ad-dalal. So why, what is our actually intention when we say freedom is the core of human nature? So our intention our intention is to free people from humans enslaving humans, and their intention behind the same process of legislation is to enslave humanity over there. So you saw the results, you are seeing the results of that intervention, that bad legislation that is happening over there. You are making, why did we make Pakistan? What was the intention behind it?
Are you asking me? Do you
It's
want
a
me to
question.
say it?
Yeah.
Obviously, the intention was to have a sovereign land for Muslims,
South Asia.
and that too, obviously, that we could practice our religion peacefully.
Yeah. So this as our Qaid said, that if we do not make Pakistan, you are going to enslave
The Muslims.
a whole of a nation by making it a minority.
That's true.
Right.
And
right.
that is what has happened in Kashmir. So the intentions behind, sometimes nations intend
Or the leadership's intent.
sometimes the nation through their leaders, their intentions are not right.
Exactly, and that's true. And sir, very quickly, just to wrap it up as well, because we're short on time as well. Let me ask you, and let's be very honest and clear about it, so that our viewers really do not have any sort of misunderstanding or misconception about this very concept. So, having self-control totally depends on intent. That's what you're trying to refer to.
Yep.
All right, कि नीयत भी अच्छी होगी, then obviously it will help you to have greater self-control.
Yep.
All right, well, that's wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you actually at heart are thinking about doing good to people, and that at heart you are actually thinking about being humane to people, and that at heart you're thinking about doing anything and everything which is at your disposal very positively, and that too that you have an intent of making Allah Razi as well. So thank you very much, Ramzan Sahab, for being with us. It's always lovely to be in conversation. And tomorrow, I have another concept to pick up on. And so do you want me to share it right now?
Yeah, definitely.
I think because I was in conversation with one of my very dear colleagues as well, and he said that, that the better Muslim you become, the better, I think this is how it needs to be translated. The better Muslim you become, the shaitan will be actually tougher on you as well. And that's something I wanted to talk about.
And we can correlate it with ethics.
All right, let's correlate it with ethics, because God forbid, if the shaitan is actually going to come back and challenge you in a stronger way, I think that's where your ethics might just kind of sway as well. So thank you very much, Sandhu Sahab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you every single day on Ramzan Pakistan. Hajar, you want to say something?
I think it's very important that, we do not instantly react to the external stimuli, think about it and then react, right?
But it takes time, you always have to keep yourself, you always have to remind yourself.
That's what self-control is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, for each and every one of us, we might become a little frustrated because of the fact that whatever we wanted to achieve, we were not able to achieve, just because of the fact that we didn't behave the right way or the right manner.
Right.
And I think it's just going to take a little bit time. All you need to do is just always remember that you want that self-control in your personality, that you want that self-control, and inshallah you will see the results as well. With that, we're actually heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're watching PTV World, and the transmission's name is Ramzan Pakistan.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
Sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He who does not respect elders, does not have mercy on children, does not commend what is good, and does not forbid what is evil, is not one of us.
The second 10 days of Ramadan are to seek forgiveness.
أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب أذنبته وأتوب إليه.
I seek Allah's forgiveness from all my sins, and I ask for repentance.
से काम होगा.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
Welcome back, and we were talking about the fasting and also self-control, which is very essential, especially in the fasting, right?
That's true.
Shehzad? And for that, we have a very good package, so let's have a look at that.
Really, I think that, we certainly would have kind of talked about the package in the first segment, but we certainly have a very important topic right now to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, and it's, I think I would want to refer to that as well, because women empowerment, ladies and gentlemen, is really important. There's so many people who come from different walks of life, and there's so many other opportunities out there for men and women equally, which I believe needs to be equally as well. But ladies and gentlemen, what happens is that, we truly do live in a male-dominant society, and we really need to agree and accept that as well, because if you're not going to accept that, we really won't be the ambassadors of change. But how do you think that women empowerment is actually going to help get Pakistan's economy back on track, or probably for each and every individual daughter, mother, sister who really wants to chase their dream, make that possible as well? Just today, while I was driving towards work, I actually saw a mother of two riding a motorbike as well, and probably going towards her workplace. And I thought that it was beautiful that everybody has taken control of their own life, and that right actually needs to be delivered to people as well. So to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the member PMLN Central Working Committee. She, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be a barrister herself as well. She is Miss Amina Hassan Sheikh. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Shehzad, I'm very good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you very much for joining us. Ramzan Pakistan is a wonderful transmission. It goes on 24 hours throughout the day as well. But we're very lucky to have have you, people who are actually working towards women empowerment and equality and inclusivity.
Shehzad, I would like to add a conversation. One thing here is that back in the last stint of now Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's era, he established a center called Violence Against Women Center in Multan, and it was a very good initiative because it was led by the women, for the women, and of the women.
Great.
Yes, yes, and especially especially women who have been harassed, or maybe who are coming from that sort of background, where they're very conservative and they're very shy to talk to the men, and having women there to address their needs, it's a great initiative. I mean, because their needs are addressed, especially according to the social needs out there, right?
Exactly, and that's wonderful. That's what everybody needs as well. So let's move on to Miss Amina. So Miss Amina, please let us know, because you yourself happen to be a member of the PMLN Central Working Committee as well. Do you really agree that in today's time, 2022, it is a male-dominant society? Let's start from here. Let's agree and disagree.
Well, I think it is certainly a male-dominated society, but it's all about perspective. The way we look at it, a lot of people tend to think that in the urban society it's very different, and probably rural societies are backwards, and that's where women are left behind. But I feel differently, because I think it's all about how we look at women empowerment and what we actually mean when we say that women should be empowered. I think the first and foremost problem is that we tend to see women as a separate identity. We need to understand that women are as human as anybody else.
Yeah.
So, instead of tagging them as a separate entity, instead of fighting for women's rights, why don't we understand the fact that every gender should have equal rights across the board? And when our constitution guarantees the fundamental rights, they are across the board for every gender. So, I think that that's where the problem lies.
No, but how would you suggest that that women are actually behaved as, or probably treated as a very different or a separate identity? Why would you say that?
Because I feel that a lot of places, a lot of things, being a lawyer and being associated with the political profession, I have experienced it myself that a lot of places where I want to be, I cannot be just because I'm a woman, because people tend to see me differently, and they tend to judge me for being at certain places or dressing up in a certain manner, which I think is not correct. Like, for instance, even in universities, when I was studying law, people used to ask my father that, don't you want to get your daughter married to a good family? Why are you making her a lawyer? Why are you allowing her to join politics? That's not a good field for women. I ask, why not? I mean, I believe that women are able to achieve much more than anybody else.
Obviously, I think even men, let's not discriminate in between genders, and that's not anything which we would certainly be proposing. We would want men and women to work equally, stronger and better together. But where you spoke, I think what you were trying to refer to was how women really needs to have their own choices of whatever they want to opt for, should actually get to opt for as well, rather than parents or uncle or aunties or proposer chachis telling us that, hey, you know what, you have a daughter, probably you really need to get her married. Or rather, asking the daughter, Putra, what do you want to do in life? That's the concept.
I think, Shahzad, I was exactly referring to what you said, that, I do not believe in discriminating to end discrimination. And I think when we talk about Aurat March, or when we say slogans like that, and we come out saying things about women empowerment, so it kind of, builds tension between the two genders. So we should try to end that, and we should try to explain it to people that we are all human with all equal rights, guaranteed by our religion, guaranteed by our constitution. So that's the way forward. And as you said, I mean, I don't know, mostly men are not told, probably you were not told by your parents to become an anchor, and
They never wanted me to be an anchor anyway.
But you still did. But
But
anyway, you did. And I think there would be many women out there who wanted to become anchors, but were not allowed by their families to do.
And since every word you've uttered, so Hajar has actually been nodding her head this way, that she's actually agreeing to 100% of the things you've said as well. So I want to give her the opportunity.
No, because when she talked about that how there was a resistance, especially of her becoming a lawyer, I think women in media feel the same thing and face the same thing about that, right? Okay, so now talking about online spaces, because they have become such an important integral part of our lives, right? And we've seen that there is a lot of polarization on that spaces, right? And especially in that sense, Shahzad, that I do feel that women are more vulnerable in online spaces is because whenever you go to some agency out there and tell them that, right, we are getting harassed like that. So there are a lot of men who are sitting out there, they're saying, okay, like, see your conversation, you are maybe using expletives out there. So, this is not exactly a very helpless or a perfect victim mindset, right? That they are having that. And this is not the perfect sort of victim that you are. So we can't help you that. Do you think it is beyond the remedies beyond the law. It is more about, you know, how we change the mindset out there.
I think the thing that you mentioned, that women are more vulnerable in the online spaces,
Right.
there's also a social aspect
Right.
attached to it, because, you know, a man doesn't really care what people are saying about him
Right.
online.
I mean, we do.
No, you really don't.
We do, yeah.
But women, you know, one comment about her, one bad comment, and the entire family is going to jump on to her parents saying that, you know, your daughter is like this and see what she's up to and all that. So I think that's a very important reason. And coming to the legal remedies to it, I think that there are a lot of lacunas in the law. Recently, I was Sharmila Farooqi Sahiba's lawyer in the harassment case.
Right, right.
And, you know, despite, you know, it's a general concept that when somebody is an influential person, they get justice easily and quickly.
Right, right.
But despite everything, you know, we filed a complaint in the with the PICA, under the PICA rules, to actually get the content removed. And, you know, they kept telling us that, oh, this is beyond our scope and everything. So I think the only currently effective and efficient place for women to address such complaints is the Federal Ombudsperson Office for Harassment.
Right.
But I believe that we need to actually make more efficient laws, because if you go to FIA, then they're going to tell you 100 reasons why it's beyond their scope.
Right. And
No,
you
no,
know
no,
what-
no, no. I'm going to slightly disagree over here, because I've had that experience. And you know, while I was working in Karachi, you know, one of my very dear friends as well, Mr. Waqar Zaka, you know, he's actually lodged a complaint in FIA, and they were absolutely fantastic with that. You know, it took them 2 days
So
to
maybe
actually.
it had gender aspect to that, Shahzad. You have to accept
No,
that.
Okay, I'm accepting
I'll
that.
explain something. So
Yeah.
basically, in FIA, when you file a complaint, it has to have hate speech in it. So
Right.
if somebody is sarcastically, you know, harassing you, they will just politely tell you that, you know, there's nothing. She's just complimenting you.
Yeah.
But you actually know what's the impact of it.
Obviously, so it
those
totally
are
comes
the
down to the
lacunas.
intent of the person who's actually written, and it's so hard for them to even decide.
Well, yes, it is, but that's why I feel that, you know, we have to have a concrete harassment law that we fail to have right now. I mean, the previous government recently made an amendment in the harassment law, and they, you know, they were all everywhere about it, that they've made a big achievement. But if you read about it, the law states, the title of the law is Harassment at Workplace Act.
Right.
So, I mean, first of all, I have a problem with the very title of the act. How would a normal woman, a lay person, or anybody from who's not from the field of law understand that their problem is addressed under this law? Because it has a very, you know, narrow meaning to
Workplace,
it. Yeah. Although they have broadened the scope of workplace under that law in the definition sector, and it says that, you know, gigs, concerts, highways, motorways, and all of that is covered under workplace, which I personally feel is not very appropriate to do so. And even if you did, not everybody has the opportunity to actually open up the law and go to the definition section and, you know, understand if there it is. So I think we need to have a concrete harassment law which would cover online harassment and in-person harassments as well.
I think that you've actually raised a very valid point as well, but you know, if they're talked about highways, motorways, or probably concerts, gigs in all such places as well, I think so they were actually trying to kind of cover the most of the aspects of it as well. But very quickly, you know, because we short on time as well, this is not from me, you know, and since I happen to have been the sailor of the ship, and you, alongside Ms. Haja Sati as well, so I'm going to propose this argument, and let's see what your take on this. So imagine we have reserved seats in the National Assembly as well for women. Imagine there are people who would always be like, hey, you know, why do we actually have to stand up for women if we are actually traveling by a bus? Why do we have to open the door? If they want equal rights, why can't they do their own things by themselves as well? And you know, where it is about the reserved seats and the quota for women as well, why don't you guys just come up openly and be like, hey, you know what, we're going to contest in the elections? So that we actually can have majority of women even in the National Assembly. Why not?
I think it's a question very close to my heart, because I've been thinking about it and we've been talking about it in the party. So I personally feel that one day eventually I would be, you know, someone who would really want to contest an election and come from my own constituency. I think the issue lies not in our willingness to contest an election, but in the public and the society to accept us. Like right now, if I go to the public, if I go to my constituency, and no matter how hard I'm working for them, no matter no matter how many, changes I'm bringing to their society, they will not be accepting me for two reasons. Firstly, because I'm a woman, and secondly, because I'm too young. So I think the problem lies not with my willingness to contest an election, but how the society is going to accept me. So I think that's what we were talking about, that we need to build that mindset first for us to eventually step in those shoes.
For a person who's actually affiliated with a political party, and that too which happens to be as of now the ruling party as well, talking about how people will accept them is something which I would certainly want an exit from backdoor. But rather, I think making sure that working on your election campaigns in a way where people have more acceptance of younger women as well. Because if we are talking about younger Pakistan, if we're talking about 65% of the youth in the country, obviously the future leaders needs to be out of these youngsters as well. So obviously that acceptance will be there, inshallah. I mean, I don't know whether it is one thing to worry about or not. But just very quickly before we wrap up this segment as well, let me ask you very honestly, would you always be in favor of that, okay, let's, contest, let all of those women who've actually been very regular on these quota seats, or probably, those reserve seats as well, because we similarly see almost similar women, all of those reserve seats as well. Because competition within women is important as well, so with all of these facets right in front of us, we really kind of are stopping women to excel, because then there won't be any opportunity for any other woman to come forward as well, who can actually do better, who can work better as well. What would you propose, that what do you think is better for women? What is your perception? And then I would ask Hajar, and then we'll wrap it up as well.
I think, Shahzad, basically something that you mentioned, that there is no space for new women to come forward. I would disagree as far as it is concerned to my party, because I did not really have a political background, and despite that, because of my work, my party has always been supported me a lot. And today wherever I am, it is because my party was so inclusive and so supportive of me. And I think I haven't faced any kind of discrimination owing to my gender or owing to my age in the party. Rather, they were very kind enough to nominate me as a youngest member of the Central Working Committee, and I've been working on mostly legislation things for my party. So I think that you have to make your own space with your work. And the problem, because of which we cannot go into the constituencies right now, is the general mindset of the public and not of the parties. Right. So that's what I wanted to clarify. Because, a party, no matter how hard they are working and how much they are supporting the women, they cannot change the mindset of, hundreds of thousands of people. We are working on it. If you look at our manifesto, that's a prime, women and children are a prime, thing in our manifesto. But obviously, it's a thing that's going to take its time. It cannot be done overnight. Yeah. So I think it's not the party, but it's the mindset that needs to be changed, and it's going to take time.
The time will take its course as well. What about you, Hajar?
Right. I think the basic purpose of having a reserve seats for the women is to bring the gender equity in the first place, right? And if we do not have that, I mean, how are we going to say that there's a gender equity in the society in that place, right?
Let the people decide, no?
Right? So I think
people are not willing
and
ready to do
that. How can we label people whether they're willing or not?
What is the purpose of having, let's say, ethnic minorities, giving them reserved seats? Why do you think so? Because
that's important.
But then it is also important for
women are not a minority, we are not referring to them as a minority.
But they are a marginalized segment in the society.
No, come on, I think that's where we need to change our concept, because once we start to change our concepts and we start to take them as seriously as we take ourselves seriously, I think then that's when things are going to change.
I don't know how many people think like you.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So, quickly we will wind up, and until next time, it's a goodbye for now. It's Ramzan Pakistan, and we will be here tomorrow with a very interesting episode, so please
Inshallah. So thank you very much, Ms. Amina, for being with us, and thank you very much everybody for listening to us as well. And yes, obviously we want that change to happen. We want equality, we want equity, and we want everybody to actually live their lives the way they want as well. Ramzan Pakistan, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan